Why the Netflix adaptation is almost certain to change this moment. Netflix is almost certain to change, or radically reframe, the Be My Mistress moment because it clashes with modern television storytelling norms, brand positioning, and audience expectations. Not because the writers misunderstand the book, but because the scene as written would break the show for a huge portion of its audience. Here's the clear analysis. 1. The Netflix Bridgerton brand cannot sustain an unsoftened version of this scene. Netflix's Bridgerton operates on a specific romantic promise. The male lead may be flawed, but he must never ask the heroine to accept less than equality once love is clear. A direct mistress proposal would immediately code Benedict as unsafe or unworthy in modern terms, override years of audience affection for him, and risk making him irredeemable to casual viewers who don't analyze arcs the way book readers do. TV audiences are less forgiving than readers because scenes are visual and visceral. There's no internal monologue to soften intent, and social media reaction is instant and amplified. 2. Modern viewers would read it as coercive, not conflicted. On the page, Quinn can rely on Benedict's internal struggle, historical framing, and Sophie's moral clarity to guide interpretation. On screen, the same offer would look like a wealthy man leveraging safety against intimacy, a woman with limited options being cornered emotionally, and a power imbalance that feels too close to real-world exploitation. That's not romantic tension to a 2020s audience, it's a cancellation risk. 3. The show already redefines masculinity compared to the books. Netflix has steadily reshaped Bridgerton men to be more emotionally literate, quicker to self-correct, and more visibly egalitarian. Even Anthony, the most domineering book hero, is rewritten to recognize his faults faster, be called out explicitly, and change before fully wounding Kate. Benedict's book-level mistake would feel like a regression from the show's trajectory. 4. The show favors external conflict over moral failure. Book Benedict's arc hinges on I love you, but not enough to defy society. That's an internal moral failure. Netflix prefers villains and systems, society, family expectations, scandal, misunderstandings caused by circumstance, and conflicts imposed on the couple, not created by the hero's values. Expect the conflict to shift from Benedict choosing safety over Sophie, 2. Benedict wanting to choose Sophie but being blocked by external forces. That preserves his likability. 5. Sophie's dignity will be protected differently. Netflix will almost certainly keep Sophie's refusal to accept a diminished role, but remove the explicit sexualized framing of mistress. Instead, we're likely to see a proposal of secrecy for now, or a relationship constrained by scandal risk, or Benedict underestimating the social consequences and being corrected quickly. The power dynamic will be acknowledged without making Sophie absorb humiliation. Likely Netflix alternatives, educated predictions. Instead of Be My Mistress, we'll probably get Let Me Keep You Safe while we figure this out. Marriage isn't possible yet, but I won't let you go. Society won't allow this, but I want to fight it. And Sophie will still say no, but to delay, fear, or secrecy, not to sexual inequality. Final verdict. Netflix will change this moment because the original scene relies on readers' tolerance for historical discomfort. Modern visual storytelling cannot soften its implications, and the show's success depends on heroes who learn before they harm, not after. The emotional core, Sophie refusing love without dignity, will stay. The mechanism, Benedict asking her to be his mistress, almost certainly will not. Yes. Something important is lost if this scene is softened, even if the adaptation gains accessibility and avoids backlash. And I'm going to be very clear about what that loss is, because it's not just edginess or historical grit. What is actually lost when the scene is softened? 1. Benedict's moral failure becomes cosmetic instead of structural. In the book, Benedict doesn't just hesitate, he chooses himself. The mistress proposal exposes his internalized classism, his fear of social consequence, and his belief that love can exist without equality. If Netflix replaces this with hesitation, external obstacles, or not yet language, then Benedict's flaw becomes situational, not moral. And that matters because growth without moral reckoning is just character polish. 2. Sophie's refusal loses its radical power. In the book, Sophie isn't refusing danger, scandal, or inconvenience. She's refusing conditional love. If the offer is softened to secrecy or delay, her refusal becomes practical, cautious, or strategic. Not wrong, but no longer revolutionary. Her strength in the book lies in saying, "I will not accept love that requires me to shrink." So when the offer shrinks, so does the courage required to refuse it. 3. The class critique gets diluted. The original scene makes class conflict unavoidable. Benedict is not blocked by society, he is enforcing it. A softened version risks shifting blame to faceless norms, absolving Benedict of responsibility, and turning class into atmosphere instead of moral conflict. The book insists love across class lines requires the privileged partner to give something up. If he never asks Sophie to accept less, the cost of equality becomes invisible. 4. The romance becomes safer and shallower. Netflix romances prioritize emotional safety, aspirational partnership, and likable leads. But an offer from a gentleman isn't aspirational in that way. It's confrontational. It asks, what if love isn't enough? What if good men still hurt the people they love? What if dignity costs more than happiness? Softening the scene removes that discomfort, and with it, the book's spine. What is gained, to be fair? Softening the scene does gain broader audience appeal, less risk of misinterpretation, and a Benedict who feels consistently safe. That's not nothing, but it trades depth for comfort. Bottom line, if Netflix softens the mistress scene, the story becomes easier to watch, the hero becomes easier to love, but the romance becomes less brave. Because the book's core truth is this: real love isn't proven by desire, it's proven by what you're willing to lose. And without that moment where Benedict chooses wrong, clearly, painfully, and selfishly, his eventual choice of Sophie means less. How the show could preserve the moral weight without the explicit mistress framing? This is the right question, because it is possible to preserve the moral weight without using the word mistress, but it requires precision and courage in the writing. Here's a concrete, beat-by-beat outline that would work on screen. How the show can preserve the moral weight without mistress. Core principle. The scene must still make Benedict ask Sophie to accept less than equality, protect his world more than her dignity, and be clearly, unmistakably wrong. If the audience isn't briefly angry with him, the scene has failed. Scene structure, TV ready. 1. Set the stakes explicitly. Before the offer, establish that marrying Sophie would endanger his family's standing. Scandal would harm his sisters, and he is afraid of being the cause of that harm. This ensures the audience understands why he hesitates, but doesn't excuse it. 2. Benedict's almost right proposal. Instead of "be my mistress," he offers something that sounds reasonable but isn't. For example, he says, "I love you. I want you with me. But not publicly, not yet. Let me keep you safe, away from society, until I can find a way." Key elements: secrecy, dependence on him, no timeline, no public acknowledgement. Crucially, he frames it as protection, not exclusion. 3. Make the imbalance unmistakable. Sophie doesn't immediately reject him. She asks clarifying questions. Where would I live? Who would I be to you? What would people think of me? And each answer reveals she would exist in his life privately, on his terms. with no social name or security. The audience realizes before she does that this is not equal. 4. Sophie names the harm out loud. This is where moral weight is preserved. She says something like, "You are asking me to disappear so you don't have to." Or, "You would still be a Bridgerton. I would be no one." She reframes the offer as love without witness, care without courage, protection that costs her identity. 5. Benedict defends himself and fails. He insists. He's trying to do right. Society gives them no choice. This is the best he can offer. But he cannot say, "I choose you openly." That absence is the point. The audience must see that. He is sincere. But sincerity is not enough. 6. Sophie walks away cleanly. No shouting. No melodrama. She says, quietly, "I love you, but I will not live as something you hide." She leaves. The power of the scene lies in restraint, not humiliation. 7. Consequence, not instant growth. This is essential. Benedict must lose access to Sophie, sit with the cost of his fear, and realize that he created this rupture. No quick apology. No immediate reframe. No external villain to blame. Why this preserves the moral weight. This version still shows Benedict prioritizing his comfort over her dignity. Sophie refusing conditional love. Class power operating through reasonable language. And love failing because courage fails. The only thing removed is the sexualized label, not the ethical violation. Final test, the litmus test. Ask this question after the scene. Did Benedict ask Sophie to accept a smaller life so he could keep a bigger one? If the answer is yes, the moral weight is intact. If the answer is he was just confused or society wouldn't allow it, the scene has been defanged.